Jess here, now as IGN's E3 live show rolls on. If you're a gamer with any kind of pulse, you probably know who Lara Croft is. After all, the starlet of the Tomb Raider series is one of the few game characters to become a worldwide celebrity. Well, Lara is back in a new game that isn't called Tomb Raider. Get set for Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light.
What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining us for this special live demo of Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light. We have two young, fresh fellows from Crystal Dynamics here to tell us all about it. Guys, thanks for bringing the game by.
No problem. More than welcome.
So this is a very different Tomb Raider game. So different, in fact, that Tomb Raider's not even in the title.
Yes, as a studio, we made the decision to split the two of them up. We have two teams. One's working on the pillar release, and then Dan heads up the team, basically working on being fresh, creative, and trying to take Lara Croft into new places.
So what's new about this game? This is it's designed to be played cooperatively, yes?
Yeah. So there's two players. There's a really big focus. When we designed the game, even though it is co-op and single player, you can play it either way, we designed it as co-op because one of our big points of the game was to try to make it a true co-op experience, is what I call it, where the two players really have to work together to get through all the puzzles and challenges instead of just two people living in the same game at the same time, kind of playing on their own.
And so who are the two characters? One player plays as Lara.
Yeah, one is definitely Lara, and the other character is the ancient Guardian of Light, Totek, who's the master of the shield and spear, which are great for the combat in the game, but they also serve as some of the co-op moves that you'll see a little bit later.
So we're here in the spider tombs now, yes?
Yes, you've just literally finished the second chapter, which is the courtyard, which is our biggest sprawler space in the entire game. And you've entered into the spider tomb, so you're going to make your way now all the way through effectively what's like a corkscrew. We tease the player, as you see here. You can see some of the ways in which you're going to play. Every single part of this level is playable, which is a big deal for us. We don't want to kind of hide stuff. Players see it, they know they're going to make the way to it. Ultimately, you got to make your way all the way down to the very bridge at the very end.
So they'll get over, and you can see some verticality here in this space. Since Lara and Totek's moves tend to be vertical, one of the big challenges we had on this project was to create these vertical spaces with an isometric camera, and this is one of my favorite examples of that.
Yeah, tell us about these co-op moves. Lara has this grappling hook, right? Yeah,
so what you just saw there, we call the leap of faith, and this is one of what we call the trust co-op moves, where one player is just jumping to what would be their death. If the other player doesn't hit the button at the right time, they won't catch him, and your buddy's going to get mad at you if that happens.
Sure. And Totek you mentioned his spear.
Yeah, he has a spear, so he can throw his spears into the walls anywhere in the game or any of the objects in the game, and Lara can jump to those. Totek's too heavy. If he jumps on it, it breaks. He can throw up to 3 at a time in the world, so they can use that to make a lot of ladders and bridges for Lara to cross big gaps. And then she can use her grapple hook to get Totek across.
She can also stand on his shield, right?
Yeah, she can stand on his shield. While she's standing on his shield, he can still move, and he can also jump for a co-op double jump. She can jump from his jump to get to even higher places.
So then how does the game work if you're playing it by yourself?
So when you play single player, rather than doing an AI character, which can probably get pretty frustrating in the puzzles that we have in the game, we decided to just boost Lara's abilities. So we've actually given her Totek's spear. The story's a little bit different in single player, and Totek actually gives you the spear. So Lara can throw the spears into the walls and jump to them herself. And also, one of the things that we did is we actually redesigned a lot of the puzzles in the game to be right for the single player experience. We would design it co-op, and then we would go in and kind of use that as the inspiration for the single player puzzle.
I see. So when you're playing it cooperatively like we are here, it's all about working together and using each character's unique abilities to figure out how to solve a puzzle.
Yeah.
The goal ultimately was, if we were going to do co-op, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just a feeling like a multiplayer where you know you're playing with somebody but they're on a separate mission. This was about bringing people together. Every single thing that we've done has that in mind. Obviously, we've been talking about the co-op play first and foremost above the single player to make sure that people really understand we've taken the time to really make it a real co-opetition, as we've called it.
And you'll be able to play cooperatively online, yes?
Yes, online, offline.
So one of the things that you're seeing here is that rolling ball, which is actually a really cool thing in our game. It's completely physics driven and really dynamic. The players it's really intuitive to just pick it up and roll it around. They can use the bomb to blow it up to different spaces, and it's like really great for puzzles. You can also roll over creatures with it. It's pretty fun. You can see Totek using his spears to get Lara up to that reward that they just picked up. They just picked up a reward that boosts the player's overall ammo bar, so now they can get better weapons and use them longer.
And you can see as an example the co-op, they work together to get that ammunition, so they both benefit from it. Whereby as a player individually can pick up jewels and gems and health packs on their own. When you work together, you get rewarded for it.
You can see that they're getting points as they're doing combat. That's one of the co-opetition elements of our game. The game is really focused on two people kind of building relationship and working together to get over obstacles. But there's only so many gems and so many enemies to earn points off of, and you get really big unlocks for the character if you can earn enough points. So it becomes a little bit of a competition of who can get that gem first, who can kill more enemies than the other guy.
We've also spent a lot of time working on sort of the casual and the hardcore gameplay aspects. So we have critical and non-critical tombs. So for the casual player who just wants to get stuck in and play through it, you come across a puzzle. If you don't want to do that big puzzle, there's sort of an easy fix to it to be able to help you continue through. But for the Tomb Raider fans, which we wanted to make sure that they were very happy with taking this into this new space, there's the sort of the harder tombs, which you can spend 5 or 10 minutes playing. So really we've built it for the two different players. And there's a lot of replayability. You don't have to do those tombs to beat the game, but it does make you want to go back and beat them because of the likes of we have artifacts and relics, which help things like your health and your bombs and your defense. So there's really got a lot of opportunity to go back in and play these levels over and over again.
And when you complete a level, your score is posted to the leaderboards, yes?
Correct. Yeah. And we also have achievements throughout the entire game as well. So before you start the level, it tells you exactly what you have to do. An example was there where you came up towards the rolly ball. It tells you if you manage to score a hole in one, you get an achievement, which then unlocks an artifact. If you don't get that by the end of the level, obviously you want to go back in and help to power yourself up before you hit some of the bigger bosses later on in the game.
I tried playing this puzzle before. This one, this is a rough one.
Yeah. So this is actually a good example. You can see that there's a doorway over on the right with the red lights in front of it. That's what we call a challenge tomb. So the puzzle that's inside of that is harder than the puzzles that we'd have in the normal gameplay space. And it's also very challenging to get into that. The only way that you can get through that door is to run across these spike traps and actually activate them all at once. So you really have to work with your co-op partner on this one and kind of designate, you run here, I'll run there, or otherwise you end up kind of crossing in front of your buddy's path and then he ends up stepping on your spikes.
But if you lose all your health, you respawn next to your partner, as long as he's still alive.
So one of the big things for this game is we wanted to do things that were a little bit more active and a little less static thinking, which means experimentation, and often experimentation means death, as we've just seen right there. No. So if both players die, it'll go and you actually respawn. You can see they respawned right exactly where they were before, so it's not a huge penalty. But as long as one player's alive, you can just spawn right back into the game.
So as an example, they didn't want to go into the challenge tomb, so there was an easy solve, 2 of the plates, and off they go, keep playing. But obviously it'll make you want to come back and do it again.
Looks like they have a pretty wide arsenal of weapons.
Yeah, we have, one of the big focuses for this game is to constantly be rewarding players in meaningful ways for the achievements that they're doing, right? It's not just a checkbox. You get something for everything that you do in the game. And one of the things that we give away for a lot of the challenges are these weapons. So there's over 20 unique weapons in our game.
And the weapons power up differently depending on which artifacts and relics that you collect. There's a bit of a very light RPG feel to it, where before you start a boss fight, for example, you can go in and re-equip yourself. You can choose some of the artifacts and relics that you've collected to help some of your power and defense. And then obviously it makes your weapon stronger as well. We also have the power-up bar across the bottom. So not only will you have the power of some of the relics and artifacts, but if you manage to play through for a period of time without being hit, score some points, your power-up bar goes on, which just basically turns insane mode, which is really fun, exciting thing to play in co-op. It brings like a true arcade feel to the game. So this example, you're down to the last weight. So the bridge is now fully extended, so the 2 players now have to try and get across this bridge. Obviously it's going to be a trap, they always are. Never play these games without a trap.
Never trust a door with a giant spinning grinder over the top of it.
That's probably pretty good advice.
Always a bad idea.
Exactly.
Oh no!
Oh, Lara decides to jump off.
So this next...
Here she respawns right there.
This next moment will show some of the surprises that we have in the game. We like to do a lot of twists and turns that you don't expect as you play your way through the level. So it's just like constantly giving the players something new. So you can see this surprise is a giant killer spider.
So we have several big boss fights throughout the entire game. Obviously we have different levels of characters come across. That was kind of a stage 2, stage 3. So when you clear this level now, you meet your first boss in the game, which is kind of probably the first quarter of the game. We have several big moments. We have adrenaline moments built into the entire game as well, which you played before. We have this dynamic bridge, which brings some fun and excitement. It looks like the guys decided they want to run the wrong way.
What would you say the mix between action and puzzle solving is?
Well, one of the goals on the game was to really try to hit a really even mix between exploration, platforming, and puzzles and combat. So like hitting those all across the board, you're constantly doing something new every time you're playing. We didn't want it to be combat heavy, we didn't want it to be a puzzle game, we really wanted it to be that true action adventure, even split across all those things.
And each level has different balances. So an example here is that this is a very vertical level, so there's not as much exploration. So it's kind of combat heavier, just some puzzles. Whereas when you go into the second chapter in the game, it's more exploration focused, exploration and combat. So we've balanced them differently. We've also got sort of the 3 different types of levels. We have your sprawler space, which is our exploration. We have your vertical space here. And we also have your linear space, which we showed you recently with the Chompy. Kind of brings a little bit more of the fast-paced adventure into the gameplay. They're quick, bite-sized chunks, but they're fun, and they got loads of replayability on them.
And they've just made it into a challenge tomb here, right?
They did just make it into a challenge tomb.
So in this example, you've just been taught how these plates work with the spikes coming up. So again, you got to work together to be able to unlock this artifact. So now you've got this artifact, it goes into your arsenal, you can now go in, you can start to re-equip, depending on what boss you're coming up against next.
And another thing about that puzzle, which is something we try to do on a lot of our puzzles, is there's a lot of different ways to solve that puzzle.
I see.
And what we really want to do is give the players really cool tools that have a lot of utility and put a challenge in front of them and let them, the 2 players on the couch, the 2 players online, decide how they want to solve it.
So here's another mini puzzle which we have. Again, this little challenge available comes up on the left there. Jump over the sticks 12 times and you manage to unlock another artifact. Collect some of the skulls again as a mini challenge. And then ultimately you can just blow them up. If you don't like the game to get the skulls, you can just blow them all up and you'll miss one of the achievements. So we give the player loads of objectives inside the level. It really isn't just a jump in and start. There's on average between sort of 6 to 8 different things to do inside the level. So it kind of keeps people really entertained and they got a real classic arcade feel to it. No, they're not doing too well here.
They're having trouble with this one.
No, here we go. No, died again. I think they should just blow it up. All right, it's a pretty tough one.
But having a lot of these hidden things inside the levels is one of the ways that we really let the co-op players kind of determine how the game's going to play out for them. We really let them make those decisions.
Well, the game is looking really great, and it was announced this week that's going to be a part of Summer of Arcade on
we're really
Xbox
excited
Live.
that we're one of the 5 key titles in the Summer of Arcade. So we're looking forward.
That also means we'll get to play it very soon.
Very soon, I can't tell you the date just yet because we're working with Microsoft on that, but watch this space.
Excellent.
We're excited.
Thanks for bringing Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light by, guys.
Thanks for having
Back to you, Jess.
Oh, Lara, I can never get enough of your gigantic guns. And speaking of giant guns, up next we have a game that needs no introduction, Call of Duty Black Ops. Also, stay tuned for information on our next giveaway. See you guys later.